Jujutsu Kaisen Film Zero succeeds in all the ways that an anime film should. A rip-roaring blast through Jujutsu Kaisen's prequel manga with enough heart and action to excite even the most maidenless of you lowly tarnished. I watched it fucking ruled, and I'm here to talk about it. So spoilers ahead, strap in, and let's chat about Jujutsu Kaisen Film Zero. The film opens with an introduction to our new hero, Yuta Okotsu, a troubled teen seemingly burdened with a curse that he doesn't have any control over. The curse, while very much not something Yuta likes carrying around, doesn't seem particularly harmful, at least not to him. Sure, it can turn bullies into meatloaf in 3 seconds flat, but to Yuta, the curse reacts defensively to any would-be threats. You can imagine how this would take what was a happy-looking kid and turn them into somewhat of a timid loner. You'll quickly realize that in this film, Yuta is very different to our main series protagonist, Yuji. Beyond just their color schemes and Yuta's eye bags and Yuji's gills, there's a lot to unpack here that sets up the kind of story that's about to be told in a number of parallels worth exploring. We learn later in the film that Yuta's curse is the result of his childhood best friend, Rika Orimoto's death, an experience so traumatic that Rika's spirit latched onto Yuta for reasons not explained until later. They had, and about as seriously as you can take two 11-year-olds, promised to get married and shared a bond tighter than they did with anyone else. The curse that possesses Yuta is the spirit of Rika, her love for him and his for her, creating a connection so strong and unshakable that it grants Rika's spirit unimaginable strength and dexterity, and Yuta one hell of a bodyguard. Yuji, on the other hand, had friends and was well liked in school. Known for being insanely athletic and a bit of an airhead, he had his whole 16 years of existence to grow and mature before being exposed to Sukuna. And Sukuna and Yuji share no bond other than the fact that Yuji is Sukuna's host and jail cell. Needless to say, they won't be getting married anytime soon. The real difference is that Yuji happened to Sukuna. He made a deliberate choice to take in Sukuna's spirit for the sake of protecting himself, Fushiguro, and his school. Yuta, on the other hand, was a kid and had no control over the forces which connected him to Rika. The agency in Yuji's story is what defines his evolution as a sorcerer, always in the driver's seat with few exceptions. He grows confidence quickly and comes to rely on his own unique set of skills while using Sukuna from time to time, like the early stages of Naruto and Kurama's relationship. Yuta, though, is defined by his initial lack of agency. Everything that defined his life up into meeting Gojo was not a result of his own wants and desires, but instead this parasitic relationship between himself and Rika's spirit. With no control over what was happening, he chose to shut down and attempt to terminate his own life rather than to fight on. Though, luckily for him, he did meet Gojo in precisely the same manner that Yuji did, restrained and confined in a room meant to seal the power of great curses. And this is where Yuta, through being recognized as someone possessing incredible yet dangerous power, is given the ultimatum of either learn to control Rika's spirit or face execution, perhaps setting the stage and precedent for what happened to Yuji just a year later. Gojo, being Gojo of course, wipes his hands of the whole ordeal and brings Yuta to Jujutsu Tech to learn to control his power, and introduces us to the second year trio of the main series. Now, of course, first years. Obviously untrusting of the new guy with a hulking monstrosity as a pet lurking in the shadows, none of them are quick to warm up to Yuta, questioning in much the same way that the others judged Yuji as to why someone like this is allowed here. But that's exactly it, right? If not here, then where else? What do you do other than put them under the watchful eye of the most powerful sorcerer in the world, Gojo Satoru? So, for Yuta's first mission, he's tasked with going with Maki to investigate the disappearance of two school children. Gojo's there, but he's not really keeping an eye on Yuta. Without training or direction, Yuta fearfully wanders the grounds, nervously sticking close to Maki, fearfully calling out each instance of a curse that he sees. This interaction is important. It shows exactly where Yuta is starting from. He's no hero, he has no combat ability, he is truly starting from zero. After he and Maki are consumed by a giant curse spirit and find the two lost children also in the creature's stomach, Maki's words from their time at school and earlier during this mission ring true to Yuta. To make friends, to move forward, he must grow strong. To save people and prevent others from getting hurt, he must gain control over his own future. With an ailing Maki and the fate of these two kids in his hands, Yuta resolves to save them, calling on Rika by his own choice for the first time, channeling her strength through their engagement ring, and escapes the curse, battered, bruised, but forever changed. Fast forward 3 months and Yuta is no longer the same person. While not as physically gifted as Maki, he holds his own in their sparring matches, building his body and combat ability one tortured step forward at a time. At Gojo's suggestion, he begins learning to channel Rika's energy into a katana as a way to fight effectively without having to let her form out entirely. These two things and the friendships he's forming with the other first years is really a sight to behold. It's clear that the four of them plus Gojo could have easily been the main series protagonists in place of the trio we ended up getting, and are strong, well-characterized individuals in their own right. Watching them here almost makes me sad to know that they're not the series heroes going forward, which speaks to their depth and likability. We are once again dropped in a mission scenario, this time with Yuta following Inumaki, but this time with the condition that he must not let Rika out, or risk the higher ranking sorcerers execute both him and Gojo, according to Gojo. And knowing Gojo, this would likely never come to pass even if it was ordered. Stepping into the veil, the two make their way through the infested shopping district, and Inumaki quickly dispatches their foes. But just when the two go to exit, they realize that another curse has appeared in place of the first batch, and this one is no joke, especially now that Inumaki is horse, of course. Without Inumaki's help, all of the training that Yuta has put in comes to fruition. His physical agility and ability to channel Rika's curse energy quickly becomes apparent, and while he may struggle to injure the cursed spirit, his plan does work out. Throwing some throat spray to Inumaki, Inumaki kills the spirit and the two make their way out of the shopping center. Yuta clearly has made leaps and bounds in his training, proving that his ability as a sorcerer goes far above simply possessing Rika. He is intelligent and compassionate, quick on his feet and brave. The boy from the first mission no longer exists and instead is replaced by a confident young man eager to prove himself to his friends and teachers. So now with Yuta established and no longer a wee babe, we're introduced to someone who'll look familiar if you've seen the first season of the anime. Enter Frieza. I mean Geto. This is Geto from the first season, not Frieza. Unlike the show where Geto is seen in the background manipulating the more powerful curse spirits like Mahito, Hanami, and Jogo, we're given significantly more background and characterization to someone who was otherwise mysterious and rather unnerving. Here, Geto is seen touting a religion of his own design, using it to attract people carrying curse spirits for the sole purpose of collecting them and adding them to his collection. Geto, besides being physically gifted and resilient like any good sorcerer, is unique in that, like Yuta, is considered a special grade sorcerer. He has a special ability which allows him to collect, store, and release curses at his leisure, making an already dangerous and manipulative character even more frightening, as his power and strength can increase exponentially with the ability to amass an army of powerful curses. Geto was formerly a student at Jujutsu High and was classmates and best friends with Gojo. It's not clear what happened, but somewhere along the line, Geto was expelled from Jujutsu Tech and he and Gojo went their separate ways. Not sure if being the sorcerer equivalent of Voldemort had anything to do with it, but obviously in this world of sorcerers, they consider Geto to be a top level threat. One thing is clear though, while Geto despises non-sorcerers, he has a strong desire to protect and do no harm to his fellow sorcerers, even if they stand on the other side of his goals. While true that he ultimately incites the climax of the film in order to steal Rika away from Yuta, his first interaction with Yuta is one of attempted camaraderie. He and his team of sorcerer supremacists head to Jujutsu Tech in an attempt to persuade Yuta to join him in his goal of elevating sorcerers above regular humans. Yuta, of course, is disgusted by this, particularly after Geto's attitude towards Maki, a cursed energy deficient sorcerer, and Panda, who's a cursed doll. It's interesting that Geto thought Yuta would accept this offer in the first place, considering that Geto has seen how Yuta fights alongside his friends, as Geto is the one who set both curses on Yuta previously in the film, as a way to test and quantify his ability. My guess is that Geto never really actually thought that Yuta would join him, but because of his morals and desire to preserve sorcerer kind, decided to extend the offer anyway, as a way of offering himself justification for later attacking Yuta. Basically saying, well, if he won't do as I say, then I really have no choice. After this encounter, Geto leaves Jujutsu Tech and declares that he'll lead an attack on two large civilian population centers, one in Tokyo and Shinjuku, the crucible of curses, and the other in Kyoto, the capital of Jujutsu society. This, of course, is a ploy to separate Yuta from the rest of the Jujutsu sorcerers in an attempt to steal Rika from him, because if successful, it would put Geto in possession of a spirit powerful enough to conquer even the strongest sorcerer in the world, Gojo Satoru. So, the battle begins across the two cities and we see appearances from favorites across the show. The Kyoto students are out in force laying waste to Geto's army, while characters like Nanami and Mei have a chance to shine, slashing curses to ribbons in a flashy display of violence. Most notable of these battles here is the one between a foreign sorcerer and Gojo. Not that curses were ever implied to be confined to Japan, but it's interesting to see someone from outside the country take part in this battle, even if their role was that of a distraction. Curses, insofar as we've seen in the show, have their basis in Japanese myth. This could imply that curses manifest in specific ways based on the held beliefs of those who conjure them up. Anyway, upon realizing that Geto likely was targeting Yuta, who was left alone at school with Maki to keep him out of danger, Gojo sends Panda and Inumaki back to Jujutsu Tech to support Yuta and to keep him safe from Geto. Their first years immediately find Geto with a battered Maki and begin a fight that they, in all honesty, never had a chance to win. They weren't supposed to. Their defeat at the hands of Geto end up being what it takes to draw out Yuta's true power, pushing him past his barriers, his fears, and his limitations, in what becomes an all-out brawl between the most dangerous sorcerer on the planet and the combined love of Yuta and Rika. During his time at Jujutsu Tech, we've seen moments of Yuta's physical growth. Sure, it's the most flashy and immediately obvious change, but his relationship with Rika started as one of fear and contempt and set Yuta up on a path of such self-loathing that he contemplated ending his own life. Through his growth as a person and his confidence in speaking with and relying on Rika, they've come to a better understanding of each other and matured their relationship where each can reliably count on the other. This change in understanding of Rika as a cursed spirit draws an impossible line in the sand between Geto and Yuta, an even deeper line than what was already mentioned before. Geto uses curses as weapons, collecting them and throwing them out to die in the name of his ambition, tools for his end goal. Yuta understands the nature of his relationship with Rika. He recognizes her as a curse and as the fragment of the person she used to be. She suffers by being in this state, and that by exorcising her and other curses, it's actually an act of kindness that these spirits deserve. As the battle rages, Yuta asks Rika to lend him her full power in exchange for offering himself up to her forever, choosing to die and to join her to save those he cares about here. This power brings him over the edge and causes Geto to leave, ultimately meeting Gojo in an alley where the two share brief words before Gojo kills Geto. Or at least that's what's implied. We know from the show that Geto is still very much around interacting with curses, but the scar on his forehead in the show may mean that he's no longer really human, or at the very least not the same Geto as the one in the film. In the end, Gojo appears and explains that he and the Tokyo team had been investigating Yuta's past and found that he, like Gojo, share a common ancestor. It's determined that during the accident that killed Rika, it was Yuta who placed a curse on her, causing her to be forever linked to him until the curse that tied them together could be dispelled. This was of course unintentional on Yuta's part and a power that was completely unknown to him, being raised outside the world of sorcerers. With the curse dispelled, Rika takes human form and hugs Yuta one final time, thanking him for a beautiful 6 years, happy to at least have had this time with him, before disappearing into the void, leaving Yuta with his friends and teachers, but truly alone for the first time since her death. This is a touching ending to a relationship we saw grow through tragedy and ultimately persevere through love and understanding. The relationship between Rika and Yuta is truly one unique to the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, and I have high hopes that we'll be seeing Yuta again soon. With that, the film concludes, but does share one extra credit scene that shows Yuta somewhere in Europe, with Gojo and the mysterious foreign sorcerer chatting away in a cafe, perhaps a hint at where Yuta's been during the events of Season 1 of Jujutsu Kaisen. So guys, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video and even more so the film. I'll see you guys next time in my next video. Peace.